Hi, it's Jane. Thought I'd come on and we'd chat a little bit while I crocheted today. But I realized I forgot to show you the other day. I was talking about those quilt blocks. But first, I was at my local Walmart and they had dinosaurs, a box of dinosaurs that was marked down to 50 cents each. And they're these hard resin plastic ones. And then they also had the safari animals that were 50 cents a piece. And I didn't get any dinosaurs because they were all gone. But I did get 2 camels. Picked up 2 of the moose. Elk. What are these, elk? Elk or moose? Moose or mouse? I don't know. Always thought they were elk. But I guess with those bigger horns, they're moose, right? Guess I need to look up the difference, right? So those were 50 cents a piece. So I got 2 of each of those while I was in the Walmart. But those squares, those quilting squares and things that my friend had given me, she's since passed away. But she had started a block here, doing a log cabin, quilt as you go. Only she wasn't really quilting it, she was just piecing it as she went, using a couple of different colors. And thought that might be, a cute centerpiece for the one of her blocks to put on a bag. Then she had a lot of these that were mixed. There were smaller pieces like this. She had a couple of beans that were cut out. But the thing that I was talking about with the crinkle is she had made a lot of these blocks, and excuse it because it's kind of messed up and whatnot. She'd made quite a few of these blocks with that bean and the oval and a smaller oval. But I don't know if you can hear that. There's paper on the inside there. Now, on some of these, she'd actually gone and cut around it on the back to pull the paper out. But some of these, she left the paper. Now, like these 2, the paper's left on those. I mean, there was no rhyme or reason to what she was doing. So I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to take the time to get some scissors in there and snip it and cut around it the way that she did, leaving that opening. I've never done this type of quilting before. As you can see, there's a little bit of a zigzag stitch around there on that edge. So not real familiar with it. So I guess, I probably just need to sit and cut the paper out, cut that backing out around there and whatnot. But I had thought about taking quite a few of these, piecing them together to make a couple of bags or something like that. Or maybe even a quilt, I don't know. I don't have any more of her fabric here, so I don't have enough to make a quilt. Because it's such a mix. I think I might have a total of maybe 15 to 20 complete squares. I don't think that would be big enough to make a quilt or anything like that. And what she used is the waxed butcher paper. So, yeah. And I do know that at one time a lot of people were making those baby quilts with that in between, so it gave that little bit of a texture for certain children who wanted to have additional texture. But then as I'm going along with these, there are pieces like this that are stuck in there. another log cabin. This is a variation on the log cabin. I think it's called Courthouse Steps. And then she had quite a few of these just mixed in different. Those I believe I will put together to make a bag. But these funny little guys, I'm not real sure what I'm going to wind up doing with those. But those are in the planning stages, to go through and figure out what to do with them. Like I said, I'd forgotten to show you those. And then she's got little pieces like this that she'd started something. In a way, it's a little bit of a memory of my friend Pam. And just a way to use up some of the scraps that she had, some of the quilting scraps that she had started making, turning into some kind of project. Now, I will tell you, there was a period of time where everyone thought that she had Alzheimer's. That really was not the case with her. She had had a couple of strokes, and her home that she lived in, when she went up into the attic to go through a lot of things, she found it was filled with bats and bat guana, which is bat poop, which she had to hire someone to come in and, take the bats out and help clean up that mess. And of course, everything that was in there was considered hazardous. So she had to get rid of a lot of that. She had a lot of stuff that was up in the attic, that fabrics and things. I mean, she had tons of stuff like that. But it wasn't that. She'd also picked up a parasite. So in the combination of having a stroke and the parasite, eventually all of it kind of did her in. So, but what are you going to do, right? Sometimes life takes turns we don't expect. Isn't that true? Crazy, crazy. So my week has been fairly calm so far. Realtor did come and we had a good talk, and I found out a couple of things that ticked me off, quite frankly. And so I just let the lawyer know what was going on there and kind of go from there. But, it's rather annoying to have to deal with all these issues and all the stuff that comes up, and you would think that people would be on top of it. But then again, neither was I, so, it is what it is. We have had in our community quite a few interesting things that have been going on. Our local YMCA is doing a push to try to be able to be open 24/7. Now, I don't know if that's going to fly around here, but and I'll explain why in just a second. Their push is to be able to stay open 24/7 for those who need to work out at a later time, earlier time in the morning, because I don't think they open up until about 6 in the morning. So what they're doing is they enacted this cute little thing, where they put the one person in jail from the YMCA, and then they raise funds as bail money to get her out, to see if they could get the funds raised, is what they're basically trying to do. And it's interesting the way they do that. But this is a fairly small town. There are a lot of athletes that go to school here, and they do need the opportunity to work out sometimes after hours, before school, that kind of thing, because of their education and whatnot. Although this university is becoming more and more geared towards online education instead of actual physical education. But of course, there are some parts of it that cannot go totally online, like science departments. Anything that has a science degree behind it, you have to be able to have clinicals and lab time. So, that in that respect, it'll always kind of be open. They have a PA program here, and so that, there's no way that can go online totally. But as far as the teaching education for secondary ed, which is basically what this school was started on, the university, a lot of those, they can go online. So, I don't know. But before, there was a gym that was 24/7 here. And it went out of business because it didn't have enough business. It could not sustain it year round. And so, and there were a lot of issues with a couple of homeless people that would wander in and try to stay in there. And can't blame them during the winter months to want to get out of the cold. Of course, now we have a place that takes in folks like that. It's not just the underpasses. Now there is a house that takes in, I think it's 12 men, 12 women, something like that. And they are separated by floors. So they each have their own rooms, that kind of thing. And there's that opportunity for those folks to get back on their feet. But the whole goal is for them to get back on their feet so that they're not reliant on living in a shelter type place. But this is the most fascinating part about this. This shelter came about because there was a man who used to, he would go from bridge to bridge, find a corner by the river and sleep there, sleep in bleachers. We have an amphitheater. He would sleep in the amphitheater. He would just walk back and forth up and down the highway, and during the day, and find himself food. He was a veteran. He chose not to live in a home because of some of the PTSD that he had suffered. Well, he got sick, and he had cancer. And one of the ladies in our lovely community took him in, gave him basement apartment, and he lived there until she passed away. And then when she passed away, he had nowhere else to go, so he went back to the streets. Of course, he had cancer. Well, they were redoing the halfway house, or whatever they called it then. Can't remember what it was called. They were redoing it and refurbishing it. They'd heard about him, so they had fixed it up pretty quickly so he could at least have a room there while he was doing his cancer therapy and, ultimately passed away. But they became pretty close. The pastor that was running this facility and this man, and learned more about his story and, why he chose to stay homeless and all of that kind of thing for so long. He did have a small pension that he could live on, which is what he bought his water, food, new boots, whenever he needed things, whatnot. So in the long run, after he'd passed away, the pastor decided that they would dedicate this to him, and so it is named the Glen Fry House after him. And it is designed for people to come in, learn how to budget, learn how to shop very thrifty, because some of us get into trouble shopping. My shopping, where I get into trouble, is fabric and yarn, so, And I had a friend whose husband passed away recently. She talked about her daughter put her on a budget. She doesn't like having a budget. So that was kind of cute to hear her say that. But anyway, this, it teaches you about finances, shopping, caring for yourself, and, looking out for your children's welfare if you have children. Because they did take children at one time. I don't know if they do now anymore or not. But, and it's a pretty good program. And they also offer the program, I believe, to those who are not homeless, but are in need of that kind of counseling type thing. So, anyway, I don't even know where I got on that story. See how my mind wanders? I'm telling you, I not only have craft ADD, I have thought ADD. It just goes from one thing to another. Yep, it does. So, I don't know. And I will tell you, I had posted the other day about going to the food pantry for the first time and, availing yourself of it. And then someone had sent me a link to the latest story about that they're cutting budgets to supposedly children's lunches and food banks by $1 billion. And I'm thinking, yeah. And this person was trying to provoke me because of the comments that was in the email with it. Those things are cut each and every year. As they have surplus money that has not been used, they fit it into the budget to cut it out. Or if they find that there's been a lot of waste, they will cut things here and there. Now, from what I understand with the food pantry budget, the way that they had done it always in the past was to encourage farmers to basically sell their produce to a middleman who would then sell it to the food banks or, that kind of thing. And what they found is kind of like what was going on with the whole thing with the cattle meat, that they basically continue to keep the price of buying a cow lower, not giving the rancher who has raised that cattle a fair price, and then the meat production companies are the ones who make most of the money. consumer loses out because we're having to pay higher prices because of all the money and costs that we're giving to the meat producers. There are only, I think, 4.
Unknown caller.
I'm getting tired of that too. We only have, I think, 4 meat processing plants or producers. I can't remember what they call them. But they control the prices of beef. They control the prices of the meat. Because they're right there in the middle and they're making most of the money. Now, I will say that when I have quite a bit of money stashed away, I tried to buy beef at a lower cost. I do have a friend that they raise cattle, and every once in a while, when they're going to go butcher a calf, this friend will let me know and ask me if I want certain cuts of meat, and generally I go for it. And then they have it butchered locally, and it's a fair price when they do that. So I would look for those kind of places around you if you can. You'll probably get a better deal. And I know more of those are popping up every day because there are more and more farmers who are selling straight from the farm to the consumer because they're tired of losing money to those middlemen. So check those out. There are always co-ops and things like that to look into. But and I think we need to look a little deeper into that when they talk about the cuts and everybody's all worried about it. But really, when you stop and think $1 billion here, there, what's that? Joking. But then again, we'll see how it plays out. That's like the food bank that I went to, enrolled in. They get a local grant to help boost their pantry. And of course, there are corporations that sell gift items because it's like I said, it's tax write-off. And of course, there are donations. There are a lot of people that donate to food pantries monetarily so that the food pantries can purchase large pallets of food, canned food, those kind of things. So, yeah. Always be wary when someone, especially with the news these days, news articles, because quite honestly, a lot of them are slanting them to terrorize people, I think, to make them scared of this administration. Because those same cuts were done under Biden. And they didn't terrify you then. Why would they terrify you now? So, just something to look into. That's why I always say it's better off to continue to investigate your government, look into what's going on, regardless of whether you support the candidate or not, and to search out the truth, not the propaganda that is being spread by one side or the other side. I mean, sometimes facts are just facts. So we kind of have to look into that. And I heard somewhere where And I will tell you, I love watching TikTok videos at bedtime. That is just something I do. I go on this little roll. I watch some of my favorites and then do a little bit of exploring for others, that kind of thing. That's just something that I do before I go to bed. Probably shouldn't, but I still sleep at night, so I'm okay. But I had heard that with TikTok, it looks like they have a buyer, because I think April the 5th is the deadline for it. And that this buyer is out of Wyoming. And I want to say he was going to put up $42.5 million, but he wanted to move TikTok headquarters to Wyoming. And he is a big advocate of free speech. Which right now there's a whole big thing going on where it's, again, there's a lot of censoring of conservative views. Although I think someone had said they are just restricting all of the different platforms that do solely political issues. There are quite a few of them that do, both left and right, and I love watching both of them. Because sometimes I watch the right and I go, that don't make any sense. Then there are times I watch some of those that lean left and they don't make any sense. So, we're all human, we're all fallible. But I have to tell you, one of my absolute favorites are those that are satire accounts that make fun of the left and make fun of the right. I love those kind of accounts. One of my favorites is the gal that supposedly has 6 kids and is always talking about how they cut her welfare and they cut her food stamps and cut this and all that kind of stuff. And people don't realize her site is satire. Her channel is satire. But the other one is the one where the gal talks about her child identifying as a cat and, quit bullying him and all that kind of stuff. People don't go to read the profiles. I always go and read the profiles because I like to see they're going to give me a little bit more information about them. And there's a lot of times that they are simply satire, parody, comedy. It's meant to poke fun at us. Poke fun at yourselves and poke fun at each other. And we need a little more of that. A lot less of the hysterics that seem to go on. I was sitting here thinking about that bin back there that's got the I think it's Baby Bee, and had thought about making sweaters for babies, thought about doing the baby blankets with it, but I actually think I'm just going to make hats. I'm going to use the Addy, and I'll get that set up, and we'll go through and do the Addy together and take you along while I chat, working on the Addy machine maybe. I don't know. I'm afraid that the Addy machine might be too loud, but we'll see. It might be interesting, right? But, and just make a bunch of hats for Operation Christmas Child. Sorry about that. Chatted on too long, ran out of time on my camera. Yeah, I just thought that I would make a lot of hats for Operation Christmas Child to go in those boxes. And that is another great item to put into boxes for children, Operation Christmas Child. We always think that they just go to cold places. Well, no, they also, hot places. You know, because we always think of just third world countries that are hot and that they're the only ones that get items. But no, Operation Christmas Child delivers to a lot of places around the world. And some of them, kiddos, are in need of hats. And not only that, but this is the one thing that has stuck with me for the longest time. And this was one of the OCC administrators that had gone to Africa, Kenya, on one of the missions, with delivering boxes. And she said she went into a church and she had video and she had pictures. And in this church, there were a lot of people wearing hats, scarves, and winter coats. And she said it was 80 degrees in there and she was sweating. But they were cold because they are so used to high temperatures that when it drops down into the, mid 70s and 80s, that's cold to them. So, yeah, who would have thought, right? So I've always kind of kept that in the back of my head, remembering that fact. But, yeah. It's always interesting. Things we see and learn as we go through life. And I would have never thought that in Kenya, 80 degrees would be considered cold weather. I would think that would be pleasant. But, because that's all in the eye of the beholder, right? So, yeah, so that's what I've kind of settled on with the, that baby bee yarn that I have back there. They're nice, gentle colors. They're, pale. And I think they'll just be fine for hats, that kind of thing. And I did decide that that purple DK weight, I'm going to actually do scrunchies with it. I found a scrunchie pattern that I like. It's kind of pretty, and it's one of those that's going to take some time to do. But I think that the scrunchies made out of that yarn will be absolutely stunning. So that's what I'm going to do with the purple. I don't know what else is in there. I guess I should look behind me, huh? Anyway, I'm trying to work through that tote. I've got about half of it with this blanket gone through. But I do want to get through it and get into the next tote. And that's where you got to find time to do it, right? And I don't know. I do enjoy making hats. I do enjoy making Afghans. Afghans are my favorite. But I think because a lot of it is kind of mindless, relaxing to me to get through. Unless it's one of those artsy-fartsy pieces. And that takes a little bit of thinking to go through and do. And those of you that are local in Pennsylvania, I know Creative Grandma, Glenda, has been talking about the soap sack meet and greet. And I am thinking about going to that. And I believe that's in May. But I think it's on a day when I have something already scheduled. So I need to double check. But I think it'll be a lot of fun. And from what I understand, Premier Yarns is providing the cotton for the soap sacks. That's what it is. Soap sacks to make soap sacks. And in the past, I had always thought about including soap sacks with the Operation Christmas Child, but as of this year, they will no longer be allowing soap. So, you know, a soap sack wouldn't work, although you could use it for marbles or put your little cars in or whatever. You just make it a little bigger. So there's that. And I believe Rose, she's working with a group. Was it the Generous Crafter? I think that's it. Where they've got certain projects that they're doing each year. So you need to check out Rose's channel if you haven't. That's Rose Likes Crochet. And support her. She makes some of the best stitch markers, and she's always showing us what she's making for her craft fairs that she does around the year, and oftentimes shares some of the patterns that she uses. So that's a great tool for those of you that do craft fairs. I don't do craft fairs, although I've thought about doing it, but I'm like, no. So those are, you know, and I think her friend who needs the washcloths is still taking, no, I think that ended. I think that was yesterday was the last day. I'm filming this on Tuesday. I think that was yesterday. That was the last day for his collection. Not sure if there was someone else that can use them too or not. But, and of course, she's also doing her random acts of kindness. Each month she does something a little different. And that's always fun to see those. So check out her channel. Check out Creative Grandmas. I don't know about you, but I absolutely love seeing Cody getting into the crochet and seeing the things he comes up with and the interaction between the two of them. So, and that's a lot of fun. I like seeing that. So, and I have met Cody several times because generally when Glenda and I see each other, we're out somewhere, you know, maybe Walmart or whatever, or we run into each other, and Cody is normally with her filming, so, and he is a very nice young man. And I love that he has certain stitches that he's already fallen in love with, you know, to do for blankets and things like that. And he's already started creating his own patterns. So, and I think sometimes we need to remember crochet and knitting is not just a women's craft. I mean, I don't know how many people, you know, I've heard say, well, that's just a woman's craft. No, it's not. In fact, I believe knitting was actually, if I remember correctly, a lot of soldiers, a lot of seamen did knitting, crochet, those kind of things while they were on ships and submarines. You got to remember, ships are cold. And nowadays, because we do use a lot of computers on ships and those kind of things, you got to keep the computers at the right temperature, and generally keeping them cool is a priority. So yeah. And I do think it's interesting. A lot of people making a big stink about Elon Musk. May something, I can't remember what day was, that he'll be stepping down from Doge. Well, he wasn't a permanent employee there anyway. I mean, that was made clear from the beginning that it was only going to last to a certain point. But then again, people blame him for what they say, that he's making all these decisions to cut these things, to do away with that stuff, this stuff, that, and he's not. But you guys made him scapegoat, and that I just think is fascinating. How people, both right and left, the rumors go, and people have scapegoats. Because there's actually a team of people that make those decisions. And he is not one of them. He makes suggestions, just like anybody would in a meeting when they've discovered things. And some of his ideas are okay. Others, I'm sure, are just pure crap, just like all of us. So, yeah. And I had watched a video yesterday, TikTok. It was a woman. She's Democrat. She has her kids in the car with her, and she said people driving by, flipping her off, trying to run her off the road, yelling at her, screaming at her. And she's like, I got my kids in the car with me. You know? She thought, this is ridiculous. And those that, continue to do criminal acts against people that have Teslas, you're going to be caught. I mean, my goodness. Do you not realize they have like anywhere from 7 to 9 cameras on those things? And it's called Sentry Mode. And most people leave their car in Sentry Mode so they can catch whoever does any kind of damage to their vehicle. It's a security measure that's put into these vehicles. So, don't be stupid. Don't be like Bill and be stupid. If it's not your property, you don't damage it. It's not your property. It isn't your property. You wouldn't want somebody to come along and damage your property just because. And you ain't hurting. They keep saying they're hurting Elon Musk. No, you're not. In most cases, you're hurting yourself. And if you have any kind of pension, when the stocks go down, that's your pension that's going down. So, there's a lot of companies that have bought into Tesla stock. So, But I guess some of us were raised a little different than others. My parents were very much, you don't damage somebody else's property out of meanness or spite or just because you want to be ugly, which, in a sense is bullying. If you really look at it, you are bullying others when you do stupid stuff like that. But there were also, if you borrowed something from someone, when you returned it, you left it at least in the shape you got it, or better if possible. My parents taught me if you borrow something from somebody, you treat it like it's your own precious gift, and you return it in the best shape possible. You don't damage it. So, just wish more parents teach their kids a little bit better civic manners. And that's really what I consider it. Civic manners. Be civil to one another. We're all in this together, regardless of who the president is, who our Congress people are, the decisions that they make. We're all in it together to vex us all. So, stop being jerks. It is almost time for the weeds to start coming up and the blooms to start blooming here. I went out yesterday for a little bit, and one of the first things that hit me was some of the pollen in the air. And then, of course, I was off sneezing, so here comes allergy season. Yay! That'll be fun, won't it? But I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to it. Although today our weather is chillier today than it has been. I think yesterday it was 73, 74. Today it's like 47, 46. And I think tomorrow it's supposed to be in the 60s, then in the 70s Thursday, and back down. I'll be glad when it's a little bit warmer all the time. Not hot, just a little warmer. But soon enough, we'll be griping about the heat, won't we? I will be if I have to go out, because I'll have to go out and do everything early in the morning. Which means I got to get up early in the morning. Sometimes I just want to sleep late, I admit it. Sometimes I just want to sleep late. Of course, then I get into the bad habit of not wanting to get up early enough to do certain things anyway that I need to get done. Bad habits. Just like I was talking with someone, she said she had gotten into this pattern where she was staying up late at night till 2 and 3 in the morning, and then she would get up and she would read and read until about 3:30 in the morning, go to bed. And she always hated it because she would have certain things she had to go for in the morning, and she's not a morning person anymore. I'm like, well, what is the difference between reading in the early afternoon or early evening as to waiting to read till 2 o'clock, midnight to 3 in the morning or whatever? I said, it's kind of like us crafters. We get in this rhythm, and so we kind of have to get out of it, get back on a regular sleep cycle, and that takes time. In other words, if you're used to staying up till 2:30, 3 in the morning, you want to get on a better sleep cycle so you can get up earlier in the morning, do more things during the day. then you're going to have to get up earlier, go to bed earlier. And it just takes practice. You just got to keep at it. That was the one thing that Thomas, it used to drive him nuts. He'd say, well, by the time I get up, everything's, there's not much time to do what I want to do because they all close at 5 or 6. I'd say, well, that's because you sleep till 1 o'clock on your days off. You stay up all night and then you get up, he would come to bed like 2:33 in the morning. On Friday nights, he'd stay up till that time, and Saturday, and then, of course, by Sunday, he didn't want to go to sleep, but he'd get in there and get to sleep and still get up about 9 o'clock to get to his class. Now, luckily, he was able to arrange to where most of his classes didn't start till 9:30 or after 9:30, but that was not always an option that was available. I think he had a lab one day that was 8 o'clock in the morning, which he wasn't pleased about, but he learned to deal with it. But he used to laugh when I would say that to him. He'd say, yeah, you're right. All right, folks, that is it. I think I have yammered on enough about this, that, nothing. So I am going to go. I'm going to go into the sewing room and work on a few things in there. So, everybody, have a great week. Do something kind for someone this week or yourself, family members, neighbors, whatnot. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.